We are live.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm here with Gatlin Shadow. How are you doing, my man?
Doing well this morning. It's snowing here. You guys got snow out there?
Yeah, it's pretty bright here. I wonder what all our viewers are looking out at. Yeah.
It's been much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. Got to do some shoveling now that my back is feeling better. So
Oh, good times.
yeah, cool. So thanks for joining us. We have basically we've produced these 5 activities, hour of code for Unreal Engine, to introduce students and teachers and everyone else how to get into coding concepts and techniques through building a game in Unreal Engine. So not only does it get you familiar with coding concepts, but it also gets you familiar with the Unreal Engine platform, which is an amazing game development platform. It's the game development platform used to develop, I don't know, Fortnite and Rocket League, things like that.
A couple of those small games out there.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So we're going to be showing you how to use that platform and get familiar with it in the context of a game. And Gatlin Shadow has kind of really spearheaded the development of this lesson, and he's going to walk us through activity 4. This is like a good one because this is like
It gets us deeper in, yeah.
This is like a partial finale.
Partial.
Activity 5 is the encore. Effort. Yeah. So yeah, awesome. So what we're gonna do is I'll post a link in the chat to the lesson plan that we're following. There's also going to be in the description of the video that you're watching. So we have a lesson plan that teachers can use that have all of the, the rubrics, the standards that it meets, and kind of how to use this in the context of your school lesson planning and talking to your administrators, things like that. So it's been developed by the one and only Mr. Isaacs, a veteran teacher and game designer and awesome influence in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a student guide and a teacher guide. So the teacher guide is the same as the student guide, except it has little annotations along the way that kind of highlight what the teacher should know. We're like, hey, let me pull you aside. This is the part where they're gonna get stuck, so you should do this. Yeah, so basically that's the teacher guide. So we're gonna follow that. Is that what you're following?
Yeah, definitely going to be doing that one.
Okay, cool. So we'll follow along on that. Make sure we kind of call out some page numbers along the way. So let's go ahead and without further ado, I will get your screen up.
Ooh, we got the wrong one. Hold on.
Sorry.
Let me get the other one in there. I hit the wrong button. Man, mulligan. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, okay. Pretend you didn't see that. We never make mistakes. Yeah. It's a happy accident.
Programming inception.
Right. That's right. Which one of you is going to be leading this lesson? I find you. Okay. That could be a fun game. All right. Cool. Let's try now.
There we go. There's the right.
All right. Cool. All right. So again, Gatlin Shadow, he is a professional educator, 3D modeler, designer, and teacher of 3D design development at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. So he's got a ton of experience, and you'll see he's an awesome teacher. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. So real quick, I want to give a couple of visuals so y'all know that you're in the right place. So this is what the link will look like when you jump into the hour of code for Unreal Engine. It will be pretty much this. As you come down, we've already covered the first one where we were talking about collision. Second one where we were actually talking about setting up checkpoints and loops. Third one, we were actually talking about creating power-ups. And then now this fourth one, we're going to go ahead and talk about conditional statements that are inside of it. So you can click on these giant big blue letters right down here at the bottom. I just circled in red, and they will take you to this page. This page, you can see that takes about an hour or so to get through. There's our awesome Steve Isaacs, Mr. Brian Dickman, clever like himself, and then myself here, Mr. Gatlin Shadow. And we have our lesson plan, our student plan, and our teacher guide. I will be going through the actual student guide right here. So this will make it real easy for you to follow along. I will shout out the actual page numbers that I'm on as I go along, just to kind of help out. So yeah, just a little bit of a brief overview. To get the actual project, we need to go into the Unreal launcher. So the Epic Games launcher looks a lot like this as of this recording. If you are on the Unreal Engine section right here on the left, you can come up to the marketplace up here at the top. Inside of here, just do a quick search for Hour of Code. There's a little search bar right over here on the far right. I'm going to say Hour of Code. You will find this one right here. You can see that I own this one. It's 5 stars. Yay! I feel like we should be getting like, free food with 5 stars. That's amazing, right? So you just click on this. Mine actually says create project. Yours will not. If you don't have it, it'll just probably say download, and you just download it, and then you can create the project and jump right in. Whether you're starting at the beginning or whether you're starting here in 4, we've already got you set up and ready to go. So that's a big help to have that ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Close that one down. And then once you get it up and running, this is what you will be greeted with. This is the Unreal Engine and all of its glory. I'm not going to cover all of the basics as far as moving. We've covered that in previous videos, so go check those out. If you do have any questions, though, of course, always reach out. And Google is always your best friend as well. So I want to shout out to Kito. Good to see you, buddy. It's always awesome to have you along for the ride. Okay, so if you're starting from scratch and you haven't actually done any of the other lessons 1 through 3, this is how you can get up to speed very quickly. So up here in the top left in the window, I'm going to come down here into levels, and this is going to open up a new floating little window, or it'll launch it all the way up over here. Whoops, I grabbed layers. That was the wrong one. We want to do levels. I was off by a pixel. Try that again. Levels. There we go. There we go. So it's up here in this top right. So we've got level 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be working on 4, but we want to be able to see these or at least have them loaded. So what I'm going to do is make sure that they're visible. Just hit these little eyeballs right here. And what that's doing, if I come here around the corner, let's go ahead and dock this up here. Whoa, camera is moving very fast this morning. Whoa. Holy cow. All right, sorry, didn't mean to make you all sick. My apologies. So level 1, you can see that this is actually adding in these little platforms as well as little islands over here as well. That adds those. Level 2 actually brings in a checkpoint, which is hidden around the corner, but also these platforms right here. So that brings in these ones. And then 3 will actually bring in all of these coins that you see right here. Now, there's a bit of a caveat that goes along with this, and just turning them on, rather just making them visible, isn't really like actually bringing them into the game. We have one other step that we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this level 1 and come down here to say change streaming method. And I just want to set this to always loaded. And I'm going to do this for each one of these. I'll leave it on screen for a moment so you can find it. And right-click again, come down to change streaming method, say always loaded, and rinse and repeat. And we'll do this on the last one as well. We got it. So now when we actually go and play the game or test the game, they'll show up in the actual game. The last thing that I really want to pay attention to, though, is you'll notice that level 3 end right here, this is in bold, and I don't want that to be in bold. I actually want persistent level to be in bold. So I'll scoot up here a little bit and just double click on persistent level. Oh, well, thank you, GeForce. So helpful. So now that I've got that bolded, I've just double clicked on it. Anything that I add to the game will actually be put inside of this persistent level. So that's going to be very helpful. Go ahead and zoom out. All right. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that we can do,
kind of page 4 on your teacher guide, that stuff.
Thank you so much.
Just kind of annotating there for you.
Awesome. I speed through these. I need those.
No, you're doing good. It's just connecting the dots. That's all I can do.
Slow down, Shadow. You're going so fast.
No, you're good.
Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to use a couple of the shortcuts, and we've got a couple of them built in. If you press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the keyboard, you will actually jump between these different shots. So there's 1, there's 2, this is the beginning of activity 2, this is the beginning of activity 3, and this is the beginning of activity 4. And from up here, what we want to do is actually make it all the way over here to the other side. I'm going to select an object and press F on the keyboard. That'll just zoom me over there, and this is where we want to end up. And you can see we got a big red set of letters up here that says activity 4 destination. So this is where we're headed. So that'll help you kind of navigate around very quickly, because as we're bug testing, it's always helpful to be right there, right where we need to be. So today, what we're going to be doing is actually setting up some conditionals, as mentioned before, but we're going to be using what are called branches and booleans. So a quick explanation as to what they are. I'm going to jump over into the third-person game mode. You can find this, if you're following along, down here at the very bottom in this third-person BP. Underneath there is a folder that says blueprints. Inside of said blueprints, let's go ahead and zoom in on that. So inside of blueprints, you will find there are 2 things. There's the epic character and then the third-person game mode. I'm going to actually open up the third-person game mode. So just double click on that. Now you will probably see something that looks like this, big scary things. Don't worry about it. We're not going to touch that stuff. What I've done is I've just added in what's called a branch. These are very easy to kind of play with. You can just hold down the B key as in branch and left mouse click, and you can get one. It'll just pop up. So let's talk about these really quick, because in coding, there's these things called if-then statements or if-then-else statements, you may know them as. Inside of Unreal, they're pretty much known as a branch. They're exactly the same thing. And you'll notice we've got a couple little areas where we get some wires that will come in from the left-hand side, and we've got wires that go out on the right-hand side. And if this is true right here, if this is checked on, then the wire is going to feed up out the true side. If it's false, then it's going to go out the false side. So if this is true, this is going to go this way. If it's false, it's going to go that way. So this is kind of that if-then statement in a visual little node kind of setup. If we want to toggle this on and off so that it is true, or if it is false, this is pretty much how we do it right here. This can also be fed in a condition. We're not going to worry about that too much for right now. That's pretty much the basis of it. Something I do want to preface before we jump farther, because we're going to be building a key and we are inside the game mode. If you come over here to the far left, there is a player inventory and there is a have key. And you can see that this have key is a Boolean. It is red. It makes it very easy to find. Notice that this condition right here is also red. So a little bit of color coding to go along with it. Now, if you're colorblind, I apologize. There's no green on screen, so it should be pretty easy to find it, but I can't guarantee it. So let us know if we need to make this a little bit easier to see. So there's this have key over here. If I actually drag this out and let go, I have two options here. It says get key and set. So if I zoom in on this, maybe we can see a little bit better. There we go. So there's a get have key and set have key. So do we have this information, or are we going to set this information as true or false? So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the get key, and you will get this big one. And you can see this on page 7 as well. So this is what a Boolean looks like pretty much inside of the Unreal blueprints. So really easy to kind of visually see what's going on there. Mm-hmm. So the question may be, what is a blueprint? So let's go ahead and get rid of these. And we talked about blueprints in the last episode, but let's kind of just refresh it just to kind of give you all an idea of what these actually are. And if you're on page 8, you can actually come down here into the blueprints as well. And there is this BP door locked. And this door is a very simple version of this door that we have right here. So these two are pretty much the same thing, but this one's considerably simpler. So I'm just going to double click on this and open it up. And you'll be activity 4 greeted. Boom, it's right there in yellow, right? So check it out. We have this have key right here as well. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this one. We have this have key. You'll notice it looks a little bit different, and that is because it's actually being pulled off of this third-person game mode. So instead of being in the game mode, we're actually talking to the game mode here. So as we pull one off of here, it says, hey, do you have the key? Well, if we connect this right here, as soon as this code fires, it will say, yes, you have the key. And then sure enough, we have a true. And it says, okay, we're going to go along this wire and continue on the rest of the code, which sits over here on this side. Now we're going to come back to some of this in a little bit easier to kind of understand, because there's something actually wrong with this. So spoiler alert, I want to show you something new. I don't think I told Cleverlike about this, so surprised.
I'll sniff it out here.
We'll edit that sucker out.
I'll find that. Yeah, so this is really cool. And the other thing is that I like to point out too is the left side is the inputs and the right side is the outputs. So it's questioning the condition is, do we have the key? And if we do have the key, then what follows the white path is the action that you take if you do have the key. And if you do not have the key, the false wire would lead to the path of what you do when you do not have the key. So that's the essence of a conditional statement, is that you have a test that comes out with a true or false answer, and then you pick actions that belong to the true or the false. And sometimes the false could also be else, if then else. So if this, then that, else do the other thing, true or false.
Yep, absolutely.
Very useful.
And I'm such an artist. I really like these big, bold boxes. Yeah. It makes my life so much easier. Look, visual thing that goes here. So yeah, a couple little visual things. Yeah. Okay, so let's let's go ahead and make one of these blueprints. So I can go ahead and close down this. You can leave this connected as is. That's fine. It's not going to hurt the game at all anyway. If you need to, you can go ahead and just compile it up there. If you're like, why is there a question mark up here? Why is there a little asterisk right next to the door locked? Just compile it, save it, and then you can move on. Makes it real easy. Go ahead and close that one down. This is the game mode. We'll go ahead and compile and save that one as well, even though nothing's really changed in there. And back to the actual game. So this is the fun part. So at this point, we're actually going to get into actually building a blueprint. So to do this, I'm going to make sure that I am in my blueprints folder because I want to keep things nice and clean. What we're going to do is we're going to build a key that will allow us to actually walk in this door because I can't actually get into this door yet. Let's slow the camera down a little bit. There we go. And if we come up here to play, just to double check to make sure that we have an issue that we need to fix. This is all about with coding. I'm going to come up here right next to play. I'm going to make sure that this is set at current camera location. So as I begin to play the game, I will pop up right where the camera is as opposed to the starting point, which is on the other side of the map, which I don't want. Just go ahead and say play. My character will pop in. Boom, there we go. So I can use ASDW and spacebar to move around. And as I walk up to the door, you'll see that it says press E to open, right? Well, if I get closer to it, check out right beneath the character's feet, and it says key needed. So I've walked up to the door. The door's checking to see if I have a key. I don't have a key. So the false statement is saying, oh, put this little thing on screen. So if it has it, yes. If not, else go ahead and put that key needed on there. So I can't get in there. Even if I hit the E key, nothing's going to happen. That door is not going to open and I can't get to the goal that's back there behind there. I'm going to hit escape and drop out. So now we know the problem that we need to solve. Problem solving. That's what this is all about. So to make an actual blueprint, it's very simple. It's going to be awesome. So I'm just going to right click down here and I'm going to come up to blueprint class. Excuse me. With the blueprint class, just click that. You're going to get a new little floating window. And blueprints have a whole host of ways to be built. They can do all kinds of crazy things. We're going to keep things very simple, and we're just going to create an actor blueprint. An actor is something that is inside the world, something that is on the stage, an actor on the stage. Go ahead and give that one a click. And we are going to be greeted with a new blueprint down here in the bottom right. And it says, hey, new blueprint. So we need to give this a name. There's an awesome nomenclature that goes along with these. And it's BP for blueprint _ and then whatever this happens to be. In this case, it's going to be key. So you just type in key. So BP _ key.
Naming. That's super important to standardize your naming methodology.
Mm-hmm. There are actually some documentation pieces out there too that Epic really pushes to keep with inside the Unreal Engine. They're amazing. I give them to all of my students so that they've got it. All right, so now that I have this blueprint, and you'll notice it looks a little different from all these other ones. It's just got this little white sphere on it because it doesn't really have anything in it. I can actually click and drag this into the world so that it is an actual actor. I'm going to hit W on the keyboard so I can grab my move gizmo. And you will notice, let's hit F just to kind of zoom in on it. This little sphere is that little sphere. It's just kind of something that you can use to see what it is inside the world. So before we jump in too farther, I'm going to take another kind of distraction and let's kind of talk about what a blueprint is and how we're going to be using it. So grab my little example here. So a blueprint is essentially just a suitcase. Okay, we're going to be making a key, and a suitcase. They're basically the same thing. The suitcase has things inside of it. You'll notice we have a little static mesh, we've got a little sphere, and we've also got this key pickup. The suitcase can have things inside of it too, like an actual cell phone. So maybe you have a cell phone that sits inside of your suitcase. Now, the reason that this is really handy is because you can also put code inside of here as well. And that's what we're going to be writing today is the actual code. That code is really, really, really handy because the suitcase, even though you can't see what's actually inside of there sometimes, that code, right? What it can do is if you were, say, I don't know, traveling to Tahiti, and you thought that you had lost your luggage, right? Well, you can actually get the information from the satellite that talks to that cell phone that is inside of your luggage. So you can't see these things, much like radio waves, but you can actually kind of get pieces to talk to each other. So what's awesome is if you do lose your luggage, you can actually find it because you've got that cell phone in it. This is very similar to the way the game mode works. So the game mode is much like a satellite. It's just kind of this overarching branch of information that lives up above, and it can talk to the blueprint, and the blueprint can talk to the game. So this makes it really easy to kind of get information from one spot to another. We're going to explore this a little bit further, a little bit harder later, but there's a kind of an overarching broad way of kind of looking at this.
Man, you dangle Tahiti out there.
Can
Get me all distracted. I'm like, yes, really?
Can we?
How do we get
there? Can I get a plane ticket, please?
Yeah, let's go. You had me.
All right, so let's open up our suitcase. Let's open up our blueprint. I'm just going to double click on this and we'll get a new floating window. I'm just going to take this and dock it up here at the top. And you'll be greeted with the viewport tab. This is the viewport. Hey, look at that little sphere. That looks familiar, right? So this is pretty much what we're going to be working inside of. And in here, we want to add in a few things. So the first thing that we want to add is something for the player to actually interact with, specifically the character, because the character is going to be walking over this. So up here in the top left under add component, we're going to add in a collision. Same thing that we were talking about in activity 1. So I'm going to type in sphere, collision, find the sphere collision. So this is the piece that I'm looking for. Go ahead and select that. I'll just hit enter and we get a sphere. I'm going to name this _COLL so that I know that this is a sphere collision. I may have another sphere in some of my other blueprints. In this case, we're not going to have one. So I'll just hit enter. Now, the other thing that we want to add is the actual static mesh that we're going to be using so that we can actually see something to walk into, because the sphere collision isn't going to show up in game. So if I go up to add components again, and this time I'm going to type in static mesh. So use the nomenclatures here. STATI, static mesh. And you can see it's the one on the very bottom. So I'll just arrow down to it. You can also click on it. If I move the mouse, the zoom thing is going to move. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now I've created a problem, and I did this on purpose just to make a point. So let's go ahead and zoom out because it'll be a little easier to do. And you'll notice that the sphere collision now has a child of this static mesh. This isn't really a problem, but if I decide to move this sphere collision, the static mesh goes along with it. Or if I rotate it, or if I scale it, the static mesh is going to have those properties put onto it because they are a child. So I can just left mouse click and drag this up to the default scene root and then let go. And it's going to ask me if I want to attach it or if I want to make it the new root. In this case, I want to just attach it. So now I have the default scene root with 2 children under it, which works pretty well. So the static mesh, this is what we're actually going to put the key object in. So this is a little container. It's like a container inside of a container. And over here on the right, inside of my details, you will notice that I have a static mesh area right here. Now, we've already built the key for you. You can, of course, make these in Blender, or you can make them inside of Maya or 3D Studio Max or Tinkercad or ZBrush, anything that you can actually make them in. You can go ahead and drop that in here. So I'm going to click on the word none right here and just type in the word key, and I will find this SM key. Go ahead and click on that. And then we have our key right here. Like, yay, now it's floating up above the ground. So this will work really well. I'm going to go ahead and take that collision mesh, that sphere collision. I'm just going to lift it up, and then I'm going to use my scale tool, hit R on the keyboard, and then just scale this up so it fits around that actual key. So let's take a moment and actually look at this in game, because remember, I already dragged this into the world. So if I grab this window and I move it to the side, you will see that I have this. Whoops. Oh, it's going to pop to the ground. All right. Thanks, Unreal. You can see I can move this around. This is that blueprint. And if I move anything inside of the actual blueprint, it will actually move relative to that blueprint in the world too. So you can kind of troubleshoot this from 2 different angles, inside the blueprint or inside the actual world, which is kind of nice.
That's cool.
All right, so let's go ahead and just move this so it's just right on the ground. I can also press the end key, END, end, and it'll snap straight to the first collision that it finds directly below it. All right, so let's go back into the code, or the blueprint rather, and actually start writing some of the code for this. I do want to go ahead and save before I go any farther, because saving is a great thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and compile first, and then I'm going to go ahead and say save. So I get both of them up there. All right. The next step is to go into the event graph, and the event graph is where we're going to be writing all of the code. Now, if you've never done blueprints before, I would highly suggest go back at least a week prior to this video being recorded in activity 3, and we cover them a little bit more there. This is going to be kind of a level up from there. So if this gets a little bit confusing, don't worry, work with some of your peers, ask some questions. We're here to help you out. So go into the event graph. And the first thing that we are greeted with are these 3 nodes. We don't need these. So you can just left mouse click and drag a little marquee around them, select them, and then just press delete on the keyboard and totally get rid of them. To navigate inside of here, you can use your right mouse and you can pan left, right, up, and down, and you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Makes it really easy to get around.
I did put a link to our navigation cheat sheet for people that need a little reminder or help. It's in the chat.
Excellent. Okay, so next what we want to do is set up a way to interact with this in the world. And what we're going to do is this sphere that's hanging out around outside of this actual mesh, we're going to be able to collide with that, and it's going to set off all of the code. So here inside of the blueprint, inside of the event graph, I'm going to select the actual sphere. And over here in the details, we'll just scroll all the way down. Let's open this up a little bit more. And what I'm looking for is this component begin overlap. It's the second little green button on the way down. So I'll just click that. And I get this big giant node. And what it's saying is this on component begin overlap, do something. So this little wire, this white wire that's coming out of here, this is going to tell it to do something. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room to work. Slide this over here. So I'm on page 14, going on to page 15. So when we collide with this, we want to talk to the game mode. So I'm going to click and drag off of here, and I'm going to type in get game mode. Whoops.
I do love that when you click and drag and drop into a blank space, it assumes you want to send it somewhere. So it gives you a way to use the search tool. You could do the browse, but the search, if you know what you're looking for, filters your results. So you can quickly find what you're looking for.
Yep. And I lied. I jumped to page 15. I'm still on 14. And I read the wrong one. So what I'm going to do is cast to game mode. So we're going to say cast to game mode. Oh, one more correction. Third person game mode. There are different kinds of game modes within the game engine, and I just grabbed the wrong. So cast to third person game mode. There we go. That's the one I want.
It's a good thing to point out to, make sure to pay attention to the details. Whenever you're programming, you should always pay attention to the details because computers do exactly what you tell them to do. So if you can't be vague or general, or they don't kind of get the idea. They do exactly what you say with the vocabulary that they have. So these details are important, and this would be a good point to kind of make sure to observe if somebody's having trouble to proof the selections that they made relative to the documentation.
Exactly. So what we're doing, just so you have a visual here, is that we are taking the collision here, and we are then casting to the actual game mode. This is exactly what we're doing. We're taking this blueprint and we're talking to the game mode. It's all that's happening here. So we do need to actually connect something to this little object right here. And this is where I was jumping the gun and going to page 15. So pull a wire off of here and look for a game mode. These two just kind of have to go together. It's just kind of the way it works. So what kind of a game mode are we looking for? We're looking specifically for the third person game mode. That's what we're doing here. So that's what's going on there. All right, so let's bring back this up here, make sure that I can tell you where I'm at. All right, so continuing on page 15, now that we're actually, zoom in here, now that we're actually inside the game mode at this point with the code, we need to tell it to do something. And what we need to do is we need to see whether or not we've actually got the key. And we don't have the key yet, so we want to set that we do have the key as we walk over it. So I'll just click and drag off up here, and we'll say set have key. And this is that Boolean that is inside the game mode. Okay, cool. And we have this. So this is basically one of those branches because it's got one of those little checkboxes in it, but it's specifically built for this Boolean. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Now, one of the things that we also need to do is we need to make sure that the code is going to continue on. And that's what these little white wires are for. So I'm going to click and drag off that white wire and then just connect it right there. So cool. When we overlap, we're going to talk to the game mode and we're going to set the key as true. So yes, I do have the key. So that's where that's coming. So let's jump back over to our little visuals here and take a look at what we can kind of look at here. So what's happening is that when our character, so let's go over here a little bit. So our character, when they actually walk over the key and touch it, the key is then talking back to the game mode and it says, hey, you now have the key. Boom. Now we've actually kind of made that happen. And this is just a little Boolean that's in here that's actually talking with this up here. So the collision is talking with this up here. So now the game knows that you do have that key. Get that out of the way.
It's like a digital puppet show there that you have to demonstrate. I love the visuals. So good.
Makes it easier. Makes it so much easier.
So nice.
So we're going to add something in here. This is totally not necessary at all. However, it'll make the player understand that they actually have the key. So one of the things that we can do is we can play a sound. So if you have speakers and you're working on this, make sure that you actually have your speakers turned on and that they're working. Otherwise, when you walk over this and it doesn't make a sound, you're like, what happened? Why did it do that, right? So now that we have the key and the game knows that we have the key, let's continue the code off and we're going to say play sound. Whoops. And we're going to go ahead and use a play 2D sound. You'll notice there's this play sound at location. There is a difference between these, and we talked about those in the previous lesson. So play sound. And what kind of sound do we actually want to play? So there's this select asset right here. Let's say key. We want the key sound. Yay, it's going to play the key sound. So perfect. Now at the end of this, we don't need to pick the key up anymore because the player's already got it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a destroy actor at the end of this. So we'll zoom back in on this and we'll say destroy actor. Destroy actor. Boom. And you'll notice right here at the bottom is target self. So what it's saying is that this blueprint is going to destroy itself after this code has actually been run. So that way it's not in the world and your player can't grab another one. And this is also helpful for things like multiplayer, especially when you want to do co-op. It's like, oh, well, this player has got this key. You don't need to have another one in there for the other player to grab it, because then it'll just kind of hang out in that other player's inventory in the code and it'll just kind of continue to be there. As a Boolean, it's not exactly expensive, but it is worth knowing that that's there. So here is what our code looks like. Give this a little bit more room to breathe. There we go. So we have a overlap. The character overlaps. This blueprint then talks to the game mode and says, hey, you have the key. Store that information in your Boolean. And then plays a sound, and then the actor then disappears off the screen. So what does this look like? Let's jump back over here. So what we have, we have our player who's controlling the character in game. The character then walks over the key. The key then talks to the game and says, hey, you have the key. Plays a little sound, and then this disappears. So now the information is being stored in here. So all of that is happening within this little code.
I'm just so excited to see the next episode of this. Show. Like,
how do you do the thing, right?
Yeah, stay tuned to find out what happens with the key.
Okay, so here's a pro tip. And this is something I haven't even told my students yet. So new thing for those of you that are here, right? So up here inside the compile, we can hit this compile button and then we can hit save, right? Same thing we do all the time. However, there's a little drop down right here and there's a little pull down that says save on compile, and you can say never, on success only, or always. So if the code actually is a success, it'll automatically save. And in this case, it should be. Boom. So it just compiled and saved it. That just saved me a button for the rest of the time I'm working inside of Unreal. Yay, time savers. All right. So let's go ahead and test this. Now I'm going to move this out of the way because to fully test this, we need to do something very specific. Now I'm going to hit F11 on the keyboard so that it goes into full screen, makes it a little easier to see. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key on the keyboard and press the P key as in play. So Alt P will then play the game because I can't hit the button. And yay, there I have it. All right, so here's my character. I am the player. So the player is going to push the character up to the wall or the door that says, hey, you need the key. You can't do anything, right? So then I'm going to come over here and then get the key. Plays a sound. It disappears off screen. It is now, the game is now storing the information that I've picked it up. Now when I walk up to it, you'll see that it doesn't say key needed. And when I press the E key to open the door, it actually opens up.
Sounds.
And audio, yay. So there's something that happened on screen. Did you see it, Clever Like?
No, I was busy making this cool banner that I just put up on screen. Darn it.
Okay, so what happened is you'll notice down here, let's do this in a different color. You'll notice down here in the left-hand corner, I've got an icon that just popped up that looks exactly like that key. That's interesting, right? So, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that in activity 5. So, don't worry about it now. That's fine. That's not a big deal. It's just kind of a little thing to show you what's actually happening. So, now that the door's open, let's go inside and have a look around. Yay, beautiful world. So, you can get in here, kind of play around. There's a couple doors you can go walk up here. You'll see the rest of where you just came from, maybe a few places that you want to go explore. But there's no way to like end the game. Like, I can't really do anything in here. There's nothing here. So this is the end goal game right here, right where this little window is. Okay. So I want to be able to actually end the game. So let's go ahead and add in that piece. And this is actually really easy to do. If you are, let's jump back. There we go. If we jump into the blueprints folder again, you will find one that says BP end goal. I'll zoom in on this so you can see it a little easier. So this blueprint end goal. So I'm just going to drag this into the world and set it right there where that little light bulb is. Let's move in on it, and I can rotate it around so it says goal the right direction. It's actually right there at the top of the screen. So right here. So perfect. So at this point, we can actually play all the way through the game and kind of check it out. So shall we do that? Should we play through the game?
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Yeah, I guess
crazy.
so.
Okay.
And that'll be fun. Like if you have created this from starting from activity 1 then and have been building, this would be the time to basically play your game from beginning to end as your first kind of rough play test. So, but yeah, I double dog dare you to play your game.
Although it dares go first. So one of the things I want to do is I want to put this key in somewhere that's a little bit more interesting than where it's at. So I'm just going to delete it out of the world right now. And what I want to do, I'm going to hit 4 on the keyboard. And we led the player up here with our jumps and our coins in our previous lesson. So I'm just going to take that key and I'm just going to drop it right there. So it's up there. There's something actually up there other than just coins to actually go check that out. So I'll hit 1 on the keyboard. This will take me back to the beginning of the game. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit play. Wait for it. I'm going to hit F11 just so I'm in immersive mode. And if you didn't know, there's a little fun ball over there to play with. I'm not going to fiddle with it right now, but there it is. So, and you'll be able to jump across, jump across, jump across. This is also a great time to test everything that you've built thus far. So in activity 1, if I were to fall down here, there it goes, and it'll reset me.
That was a scare.
I want to make sure it works.
What?
Okay. So here we go. We can jump across here. We can jump across here. Ta-da. There's a whole little area to kind of explore back here. Jump across this one. So this was activity 1. We were actually able to put in our little setups here. Activity 2, where we actually set up our checkpoint. So if we were to actually fall in here, it'll actually reset me, not back at the beginning of the game, but right back here, which is really helpful. Activity 2, we also did the moving platforms. This one's already preset, so you don't have to worry about it. Just an example. Hit that, and make it across. Perfect.
Whoa. I don't know.
I
can tell you what, the physics in the game engine are super awesome because when I did this, I added some rotation and way crazier movement, and then you try to jump when it's moving, and
bad news.
It really gets you going.
Yep. So then activity 3, we ended up playing with this little power up that's sitting to the left of my character on screen. So I can't jump very high right now, but if I grab this, now I can make it all the way up to here. We also set up the coins. Oh, jump boost is still active. Awesome, cool. And then I think it'll wear off. Okay, there we go. The jump boost also come back after a certain amount of time. So even if the player does fall off, they can always continue back where they grab that one. Let's grab that coin right there. I keep track of how many coins I picked up. There's going to be a quiz later.
Oh.
Another one.
Why do you tell me about the quiz now?
Because it's a pop quiz.
You're one of those teachers, huh?
I'm totally one of those teachers. All right, so we grab that one, and then I'm going to avoid the key if I can, just so that we can make sure that it makes a sound. Perfect.
Nice.
So we got that one. All right, so let's hop up here.
Nice. Parkour.
Haha. We'll hop up here. You can hold down the shift key to jump a little faster. There we go.
That's clutch.
So I should be able to get through this door.
Okay.
Hey, am I getting the message?
Key question mark?
Yeah, we've got it.
True.
Thing pops up in the left, and there's our goal. Look at those beautiful little things.
Oh can you trust those shards?
Right. So now all I have to do is walk into it. Ta-da! So there's the end. 7 coins. That's how many coins we picked up. So there's some pretty cool things that are going on with this as well. And again, this interface stuff is what we'll be talking about in activity 5. So we know how long it took, or rather the player knows how long it took to get through, how many coins were picked up, and there weren't any gems. Where's the gems? That's interesting. And then we also have a message, another one of those little quality of life things down at the bottom that says press escape to quit. This lets the player know that they can hit a button to actually leave the game. It might seem like a trivial thing, but you'd be surprised. People try and figure out what button to hit if they've never played games before. So I'll go ahead and hit escape, and that brings me back here, and I can hit F11. That brings me back into the edit mode. So you can run through this, play through it, see if you can figure out some way to kind of, challenge your players. Do you want them to be able to get all the way up here early on? Maybe use their jump boost. Something like that would be a lot of fun to kind of fiddle with.
Yeah, that's the super cool thing now. It's like you have the whole picture now for this game, and now you get to be a little more of a game designer and think about where you're going to place the coins, where you're going to hide the key, how's the game flow going to go. Your moving islands, like experiment with rotation, different axis and movement, things like that. So check where are you going to be generous with the checkpoints or not? I have my little banner here. I'll put that up real quick. Be a nice game designer. Yeah, nice. That's Gatlin's disclaimer. Like, don't be a complete jerk, but right. Some people like a challenge.
Don't set out to make Super Meat Boy and Dark Souls immediately. Let them ramp up.
It's you get a pretty good reputation making those games though, like in these classes.
Right.
We did get a little comment from the great Tom Shannon, a technical artist at Epic Games. That is
Tom, good to see you, buddy.
all things Unreal Engine. Thank you for joining us. But he says, "Good job. Awesome. This is awesome."
Cool. Yeah. So, were there any questions before I jump on to the next section?
No, everybody's just like totally pumped. We're just like. They're cheering you on.
Yes.
Yeah, you're getting double dog dared from every direction right now. I think
be the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's look at a little bit of a game challenge, and this is where we're going to go unscripted a little bit too. So partly unscripted, not fully. So if you look at page 22 inside of here, it asks, "Are you up for the challenge?" So one of the things it's saying is, "Hey, look at the door that's actually inside this game." So if we were to zip over here real quick. And this is the door that we're talking about specifically. And you can actually select this whole thing, hit W on the keyboard, so I can actually move it, and I can just pull this door out of the way. So in case the code wasn't working, you can always just be like, well, whatever, I'm just going to go through the door anyways. Whatever, right? Don't do that. That's a horrible idea. You want to fix the problems. So this door, we're going to go ahead and open this code up. And this is huge. There's all kinds of things going on in here. One of two ways. I can either double click the actual door, the BP door locked activity for end, or you can select it inside the world and hit Control E on the keyboard, and this will open it up, and you get this big giant thing. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up is you'll notice there are a couple of areas that are red, and these are all of the booleans that are actually inside of here. So if we take a look at the very beginning of this, we can see that when we actually overlap the door, we're checking to see if that door is open. Okay. If the door is open, well, then don't do anything because the door is open. I don't have to worry about it. But if the door is closed, okay, if this door is closed, you can see that this boolean is set to false. Then what we need to do is we need to cast to the game mode. Well, while we're in the game, we need to see whether or not we actually have the key. Well, if we have the key, then cool. We can enable input and let the player actually open the door, which is cool. If it's not open, this whole section right here, don't panic. This will actually say you need the key. That's what this does. This whole thing. It's crazy. Okay.
This is a good moment, like when you zoom out on this, like I hear the thud of the people in the distance falling on the floor thinking, I am never going to understand this, and I think when it comes to coding, what's amazing about coding and the way we tried to put this lesson together is that, first of all, you have a big task that is just comprised of very small, simple tasks. Everything you do is simple at some point, right? So what you need to know is really kind of like the overall picture and the flow and the sequence. And what happens is a lot of that when in this context of the game, a lot of that will start to come naturally for you. So what happened, like if someone were to ask you a question, what happens when the player walks up to the door? You're not worried about something later, you're worried about the next thing. Okay, now that we do that, what do we worry about and how do we handle that? And so what you want to be doing is really looking at your focus on the one specific item, what it's doing, what it hands off to, and really this big picture is going to come natural to you as you answer one question after the other. It's like looking at a test that has 100 questions. It might be overwhelming to look at the entire test, but taking them one at a time, you'll get through it and you'll do well.
Yep, that's an excellent way to kind of think about it. So let's move on. Let's kind of jump in a little bit farther. So if the player, we see we have one here. It says end overlap. So when the player actually walks away from the door, that's what's allowing. Do this right quick. So as you walk up to it, I don't have the key, so you need the key. But as the player walks away, this has been put on screen, so I need to take it off of the screen as the player actually walks away from it. So that is what this one. So end overlap. When you're no longer standing in there, we want you to turn the input off so you can't open the door accidentally, and then take the actual UI off of the screen. And that's just this little part right here. So this whole section right here, this just controls that those two words on screen, whether they're on there or off there. So what's also kind of cool about this is that this whole section down here below, and I'm just going to pull it down just a little bit so you can really see this. These are totally separate. But again, just like the blueprints in the game, they are talking to each other. And what's happening is that right here where it says input, like we're going to enable the input, allow the player to hit a button on the keyboard, right? If this is actually fired, this little event, we can come down here and it's going to say, hey, you actually hit a button. Okay. So then cast to the game mode and check again to see if you have that key. So just in case there's a glitch in the system, do you still have that key? Is it still a thing, right? Maybe somebody else has already used that key. This do once, this is just saying, hey, just fire this one once, and then pretty much everything afterwards, just kind of, never do it again. So it's kind of a double check that's in here. Then we're actually setting that key. You notice that we have this turned off. So we're setting that Boolean inside the game mode so that that key has been used. So we can grab another key, open up another door, grab another key, open up another door. So in this case, the key has then been used. We play a sound and the door is actually unlocked. So the door actually then unlocks. Then we have our little animation. Now this is what's actually controlling the door, like the door piece to move down off of the screen. So you'll see that if I play this, wait for it, there we go. As I walk up to it, oh, I don't have a key. So for ourselves a key, testing the game. Here we go. So we have a key. Then you'll notice that little blue area, as soon as I press the E key, will drop down and it'll make that sound. So there it is. So that moving down is controlled by this door slide. Then this is actually updating the location of that door. So this is a little driver, it's a little animation driver, and this is actually moving that door down. You can see that it's actually moving the Z location. So up and down is Z in the Unreal Engine. And then we set a Boolean that says, hey, the door has actually been opened. This is talking to this Boolean up here. So when we walk up to it, is that door open? That's what set that down there below. Hold on, we're not done. We're almost there though. And then at the very end of this, we're actually turning on that little UI part down here at the bottom. And that's what's popping up in the bottom left-hand corner, is this node is controlling it. So we've got some HUD reference and then the actual texture of that key showing up, that little T key. So that's what's happening here. So all of that is what happens when you walk up to that door and hit the button, whether you have the key or not. There's a bunch of things that are happening in there. And the further you get into code, the more you're going to go, okay, cool, I need to double check all these little pieces. And again, the Unreal community is amazing and they're super, super, super helpful. There's just, I love being in this community. It's just a lot of fun to have so many people that I can chat with and talk with and kind of help me problem shoot. And this is where I'm going to go off the script.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
So one of the things that I learned while doing this is that I actually set this code up wrong down here at the back. And there's a problem. And I'm going to prove it to you. So what's happening, let's talk about the problem, is that when this one fires, it's updating this. It's updating it. Let's actually open this up. You can see it's just a curve. So what it's doing is it's sending this data over a full second worth of time. So what's happening is that this is firing, for a full second, and it's continuing to move. Well, so is everything else over here. So I don't need to set the color and opacity, 60 times a second or 50, 60 frames a second. And I don't need to tell this thing that it's open 60 frames a second while this thing is running. So there's way too much information going on here at the end. So I can fix this very easily by saying, when you're finished, go ahead and set that, and we'll disconnect this one. Actually, make that really obvious. Let's pull this down so you can see this. I'm going to hold the Alt key on the keyboard and click on this wire. That just disconnects it. I'm going to take my finished, and I'm just going to connect it right there. So instead of running this 60 frames a second, it's just going to run it once as soon as it's done. Now, you're like, well, it works either way, and that's why I didn't catch it when I was doing the bug testing. So let's catch it and actually see what it's doing wrong. I'm going to go ahead and do this one here real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in this play sound. So I'm going to grab this door, or this play sound. I'll hit Control W to duplicate it. And down here below, and let's change the sound on this. Let's use the gem sound, because we haven't touched the gem sound yet. Oh, that's interesting. It's popping up there.
Wow, yeah.
So I'm going to just type in gem, and we've got this gem sound. And then we're going to go ahead and say update, and we're going to run it right here. So I basically just disconnected. The door's not going to open anymore, but it's going to play this sound off of this update. So we'll go ahead and compile this. Go ahead and come back into here.
Oh boy.
Play. So I'm going to warn you, if your speakers are up loud, it's about to get really weird. So just so you know. So I can go ahead and grab this. And then when I hit this button, you hear it play over and over and over and over and over. As opposed to if we play from finished. So let's disconnect that. Grab that one, compile, come back in here, play again. And walk up to it, and it'll play just once. So it's a very subtle thing, but I basically wasted a lot of, well, not a lot, but I wasted enough information as it was coming through here because I set this up wrong. So if you want to clean this up, let's undo this a few times. Real easily, we can just take these two pieces. We'll just slide them down here. Hold Alt, I'll disconnect this, take my finish, and I'll connect it down here. And if I double click on this wire, I get a little reroute node, and this will help kind of keep it a little bit cleaner.
I love the reroute nodes.
They're so
just
good.
That little sense of organization. So nice.
That works it in there.
It just makes things that much more pleasant.
Yep. So now I can go ahead and compile, and we can test this too. So when this is finished, after a full second, it'll say that the door is open, and then that piece will actually show up on screen. So we come in here. Let's back up a little bit. Collect this. So the door should completely open. Let's go full screen here. The door should completely open, and then we should see that little icon pop up there in the bottom left. Ta-da! And it did what we were expecting. Nice. So now we can run up here. Yay, and we can finish, although we don't have any coins. It took me 14 seconds. Record speed run.
I don't know. A little too hasty there. You really ended up with nothing. Yep. That's cool. That's nice that you pointed that out. And also the interesting thing there is like how Unreal Engine has been around for quite some time, and they have experienced a lot of things and have accommodated for all these types of things. And so sometimes you don't know all the options that are available to you. So it's always good to, to be open to learning. This is a ongoing process. Developing is constant learning, constant experimenting. I noticed reference pages. Is there a manual for these tutorials? Yeah. So the student guide and teacher guide is linked at the top. I'll link it again, but it'll take you to the page that has the links to the lesson plan, student guide, and teacher guide.
Yep. So I brought up this is the guide that I was actually walking through. So this is the hour of code number 4. This is a student guide. So this is exactly, so the pages that I was referencing reference this one, although the teacher's guide should be pretty much right on too. So
pretty close.
So you can see exactly what was going on there. So we talked about everything that was inside of here. So big helps.
Yep. And we are doing activity 4 of 5. So we only have one more left next week, but we've been through 3 others. And this takes you from the beginning to the end, creating, you putting your personal touch and also learning concepts along the way to create this game with these amazing assets. So I recommend. I think the great experience is really like start from activity 1 and make the time to get all the way through the end, because it really just not only gives you exposure to a lot of really great tools in Unreal Engine and concepts in computer science, but also allows you to build your full project. Because activity 5, we're going to be showing you how to like publish your game and share it with people and play it on other people's computers. So it's nice to have your personal touch seen in a complete published game.
And a little bit of a precursor before we grab that. When you go into 5, there may be a little bit of software you need to download prior to that so that you can actually package the game. It's really simple. We talk about it in the little guide as well, and we'll cover it for sure. So for those of you that are getting ready, check it out.
Garbov just joined. He's a great friend and a great game developer. Has produced some monumentous Minecraft games.
Oh, very nice.
I called him Jug, so he's a funny guy. So he called me Kluver like. Yeah, so he joined us too. Thanks for joining, Jig. Cool. Yeah, so awesome. We're at 56 minutes. This was a great stream. Activity 4. So thank you so much, Vivi, for the comments. Me and the kid are going to binge watch the episodes. Awesome. Thank you. We're here to do all kinds of coding and game development and creative education. So make sure you're on our Twitch and YouTube. Later on this afternoon, we're going to be hacking Minecraft resource packs, models, and animations. So our studio focuses on building education experiences, and entertainment experiences inside of popular games and gaming platforms. So kind of our goal is to really like meet students and players where they are and where they're having fun, and give them opportunities to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Some people call it sneaking in the vegetables, but I mean, if you like vegetables already, then this is just vegetables, So, but anyway, it's good stuff. So definitely stay posted on what we're doing. Gatlin, awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so next week is activity 5. Did you want to do any spoilers or anything?
Nope.
Nope. Be here or you'll miss it. All right, cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining, and we will see you on this one next week, and maybe we'll see you for another session sometime between. Take care.
Adios.
Bye, everybody.